In our last video, we talked about building a system because life is too short. But what if your problem isn't a lack of focus? What if your problem is that you have too many things you want to stick with? You look at your life and see a dozen different paths, and they all feel like a part of you. You are not afraid of the work. You are paralyzed by the choice. This is the classic scanner's dilemma. Society calls you a jack of all trades, master of none. But in today's digital economy, that old advice is a trap. This is the classic scanner's dilemma, perfectly captured in the phrase, "I could do anything if I only knew what it was." Society has a word for you, dilettante, a jack of all trades, master of none. And that label carries real anxiety. It can feel like your greatest strength, your curiosity, is also your biggest career liability.
Today, we are going to dismantle that anxiety, look at the geometry of a successful career, and offer a path for those of us who were never meant to just be one thing. For the last century, the world praised the specialist. Society was predictable, almost like a chessboard. The path to success was to go a mile deep in one narrow field. Psychologists call this a kind learning environment. It rewards repetition. But that is not the world we live in anymore. Today's world is a wicked learning environment. The rules constantly change, feedback is delayed, and patterns are not obvious. Think about the difference between a golfer and a firefighter. A golfer operates in a kind environment. The rules never change, feedback is immediate. A firefighter faces a new situation every time, where specialized knowledge might not even apply. The problem is not that the specialist path is wrong. The problem is when it is treated as the only path and used to measure everyone. It leaves people like you feeling like a failure when your brain is simply built for a different kind of world. To build a career that fits your brain, stop thinking in job titles and start thinking in shapes. The I-shaped person is the specialist, deep in one thing.
The dash-shaped person is a mile wide and an inch deep, knowing a little about everything but with no real foundation. This creates anxiety because you feel like you have no ground to stand on. But then there is the most powerful shape for someone like you, the M-shaped professional, the polymath. Maybe one leg is data science. You go deep there, it pays the bills. Your second leg is storytelling. And your horizontal bar is your broad curiosity, psychology, history, design. Suddenly, you are not just a distracted data scientist. You become the person who can weave complex data into a compelling narrative that a CEO can actually understand. That combination is rare. That combination is valuable. The tool that makes this possible is called far transfer. A specialist uses near transfer, applying a skill to a similar problem. But a polymath sees the underlying structure in one field and applies it to a completely different one. A musician who understands harmony might look at software code and see a more elegant way to structure it. That is far transfer, the ability to see the music, not just the notes.
So how do you actually build this M-shaped life? 3 strategies. First, serial mastery. You cannot build all pillars at once. That just leads back to the shallow dash shape. Pick one pillar and commit to it for a season, maybe 6 to 18 months. The anxiety of this choice paralyzes most scanners, so lower the stakes. You are not choosing for the rest of your life. You are just choosing for this season. Build that one leg until it is strong, until you have reached fluency and can solve most common problems. When your curiosity feels satisfied, you make a conscious choice to move on. This is not quitting. This is strategic graduation. Second, use your job as a platform, not a cage. Many great polymaths, like Einstein, had stable day jobs that left their minds free to wander. Einstein was a patent clerk. A low-drain job leaves you with a surplus of your most valuable resource, mental energy, which you invest in building your other pillars. A high-stress, all-consuming job might sound exciting, but if it takes 110% of you, there is no room left for the exploration your brain craves. Third, build an external system. A scanner's brain generates more ideas than it can hold. Your mind is a high-output idea factory, but your working memory is a small workbench. The great sociologist Niklas Luhmann published over 70 books using a system called a Zettelkasten, writing one idea on an index card, linking it to another. Over decades, those connections practically wrote the books for him. When you get fascinated with medieval architecture for a week, take notes. Put them in Notion or Obsidian. Let the obsession fade without guilt. 3 years later, working on a web design project, you might realize the structure of a cathedral is exactly like the structure of this website. That is the moment of magic. But it only happens if you capture the dots so you can connect them later. So let's bring this together. You are not a dabbler who lacks grit.
You are a scanner, a potential polymath. Your brain is not designed for the stable world of the specialist. It is designed to be a bridge between different worlds of knowledge. Pick your first pillar. Build it with focus. Use your job as a stable platform. And build an external system to hold your endless sparks of curiosity. You were never meant to master just one thing. You were meant to be the person who can see how everything connects. Thanks for watching. I hope this gives you something useful you can actually try. I'll see you in the next one.